Devin, I won't say what company. So Devin has this question, which is really quite interesting. How do you create psychological safety in teams without forcing an unnatural level of vulnerability? So what do you, because it's kind of mushy,
yeah.
you're talking like a psychologist, even though you're an engineer.
Well, first of all, I mean, there's so many different entry points into that question, but I have to admit that what I am asking for is highly unnatural, right? Our natural way of being is highly unlearning oriented. So you can be natural if you want, but it may be at odds with the learning that you really want. So, but that's coming through the unnatural corner. Now let me come into the vulnerability corner.
Okay.
Vulnerability is a fact, right? The only question is whether you come clean about it. Right? So whether you acknowledge it, whether you admit it. I mean, think about yourself just 2 3/4 years ago. Right? You had no idea what was coming at you.
No,
the COVID, you were going to be sent home, you were going to do anyway. So you had no idea. So it turns out in that moment, you were highly vulnerable to uncertainty, to events outside your control, but you didn't know it. So a powerful stance is one of being strong enough to acknowledge that vulnerability is a fact, right? That isn't, false modesty or weakness or softness. It's actually strength, right? We're all vulnerable to things outside our control. And I would argue you're going to have a better shot at doing well and being a good team and being a good team leader if you come clean.
Okay, so you're back to wisdom in some ways, which is
wisdom. It's truth telling. It's reality based, right? Let's be reality based as best we can.
That's not very American looking at our political scene, but I won't go there. So so sort of moving along in this direction. What are other things that people can do in leadership positions to sort of make it safe, leadership or teams? Because you're really into sort of teams and meetings. Like, what are the symptoms you look for that things are going well?
That's great. You know how the finance people have a lot of fun analyzing ratios, and that tells them the health of a company. I could do that back when I took the MBA year, but can't do that now. I don't remember which ratios we're supposed to care about. Sorry to say. Don't tell my finance professor. But I like to riff off that and say, check your ratios. So what's the ratio between, again, like questions and statements? With good news, or I'll put it in the same direction, bad news versus good news, request for help versus all's well, progress or problems. And if the ratio is too rosy, and you're working in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world, it's probably not a good sign, but it feels good. Like we'd all much rather good news. Yep. Agree with you. And instead we have to sort of train ourselves to go, ooh, that's the dog that didn't bark, right? In the Sherlock Holmes sense, right? That like, I'm going to get a little more interested in those dogs that aren't barking because they must be out there.